Yes, fabulous. Hello. We are the flow, we are the air, we are the tellers, we are the wind, we are the old tellers, we are the young tellers, we are the new tellers, stronger than before. Hey! Ladies and gentlemen, are we still on, Waleed? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Braiding Love Across Cultures. We are very happy to have a beautiful audience live here with us at the Storytelling Cafe. Thank you very much. We're saying hello to everybody on Zoom. Hello, Roisin, and whoever else might be. And now, I would like to introduce the one and only Baden Prince Jr.
So, yesterday evening, 15 minutes after I arrived, having traveled from England, I was dragged up onto the roof and made to do some work. A group of us had a very pleasant evening telling stories to one another and to a family group that was staying on the roof of the Riyadh with us. And a couple of our friends here from America joined us as well. And we had a very pleasant couple of hours. Now, the story that I told yesterday, unfortunately, you won't get to hear from me today. But what I can tell you is that it was about a story. It was a story about a man who was given a wish, and he used that wish in such a way that it benefited not only him, but his entire family, because of the kind of man that he was. Now, today, we're going to hear another story about a wish or wishes that were given to another man, a very different man. And those wishes had a very different outcome because of the kind of man that he was. Are we ready? Are we listening?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I say click, you say crack. Crick,
Crack.
crick,
Crack.
monkey on my back. Hamish and Heather were in love. Now, for people who are learning English, note that I said Hamish and Heather were in love. That is, in the past, they used to be in love. I didn't say Hamish and Heather are in love. So at the point where we meet them, something has gone very badly wrong. Now, you know, if you've ever been in love, hands up if you've ever been in love. You know early on when you're in love and everything about the other person is exciting and makes your heart beat faster, and you know the way they smile. Oh, isn't that? Oh, you old softy. The way the person smiles, the way their hair falls down the shoulders, the way the nose sort of curls up at the edge, the way they laugh, and and that little snort. Everything is cute. Everything about them is cute. The way they slurp their tea. But then, over time, something had happened with Hamish, and it had got to the point where he couldn't stand to even look at Heather. He could. The way she breathed in and breathed out annoyed him. It was that bad. And it got to be, he started thinking of her as this burden on his back. And then he started thinking of ways to get rid of this burden. And then one day, he thought the unthinkable. He thought, I'm going to have to. And the trouble with thinking the unthinkable is that once you think it, it's no longer unthinkable. So he then began to think of how he was going to do this thing. And what sealed Heather's fate was a letter from a lawyer, from a solicitor, telling her that an elderly relative, an old aunt who she met when she was little, she didn't even remember, but the aunt had died, had passed away, and left her a legacy, a little cottage up in the Scottish Highlands, and a good little sum of money. And Hamish, Hamish immediately saw the chance to get rid of her and to gain the lifestyle that he wanted. He was such a devious man, Hamish. Devious and evil. I have to think of a new word. Devious, and he was devil. So he started suddenly being nice to her. Started talking about his angel, his sweetheart, and he started referring to the cottage in Highlands as their love nest. And as soon as Heather heard that L word, those four little letters, she melted. She was like jelly in his hands. And when Hamish said, let's go for a road trip, let's take a drive up to visit the cottage. She thought they were going back to the early days of their relationship. Of course, his plans were very different. So they set off in his old car. And they got to where they were maybe 1 mile from the cottage. And Hamish pretended that the car had broken down. They got out of the car and they had to walk the rest of the way. The walk took them through a wood, like a small forest. And it was a lovely sunny day like today. And Heather was in heaven. Sun was coming down through the trees and they were walking and he was holding her hand and she was so happy. And as they walked along, he was looking from left to right or from right to left. And she was thinking, oh, he's enjoying the landscape. He's looking at nature. He's looking at the trees and the bushes. And then he hit his foot against a bottle that somebody had left on the path. And he bent down to pick it up. And Heather thought, look, he's worried about the countryside, picking up litter. When he picked up the bottle and looked at it closely, inside the bottle, there was a little man going, so Hamish unscrewed the bottle top and he pulled himself out and he said, thank God. I don't know how long I've been in there. I thought I was going to die in there. You saved me. Tell you what he said. By way of thanks, I'm going to give you 3 wishes. It's a story to follow from last night. 3 wishes. Anything you want, ask me, and you'll get it. But, he said, choose wisely, choose well. And Hamish thought, let me see now. And he thought about the car that he left parked down the road. And he said, I want the best car that money can buy. It's like a flash of lightning, a rumble of thunder, huge cloud of smoke. When the smoke cleared, standing right there in the middle of the path where there was nothing before, was a Bentley two-door convertible sports V12. £50,000 worth of car. And Hamish thought, wow, this is real. This isn't some made up story made up by some storyteller. This is actually happening. This is real. And he thought, okay, I want a whole shed load of money. Flash of lightning, kaboom, big cloud of smoke. When the smoke cleared, the boot of the car had lifted up, and there, from floor pan to sill, was packets, bundles of £100 notes. More money than he was ever going to be able to count, more money than he was ever going to be able to spend. And Hamish thought, wow, this is great. And he was about to make his third wish when he remembered the words of the little man who said, choose wisely, choose well. And he thought, I'm going to keep that third wish in my pocket. I'm going to use it later. He walked round to the car door to get inside. Come on, Heather, he said. Heather stood there looking at him, looking at this man as if she'd never seen him before. Now, here it is, he'd been given three wishes. He never even looked in her direction. He never stopped to say, hang on a minute, Heather. No, he'd simply gone for what he wanted. Ah, material things, money, material things. And then called her to come and jump into his work. And suddenly, they say it's as if the scales, like the scales of a fish, fell from her eyes. She'd been blind. And suddenly she saw exactly what was going to happen to her. She realized that when they were walking and he was looking from left to right, he wasn't admiring nature. He wasn't looking at the trees and the hedgerows and the bushes. No, he was looking for places to hide the body. And when he picked up the bottle and went, he wasn't picking up litter and trying to keep the countryside clean. No, he was going to use that bottle to bludgeon her and break it and maybe. And she stood there. And a strange kind of calm came over her. They say that if you're drowning, apparently, when you go down into the water for the first time, you panic and you come up spluttering and gasping for air and fighting to stay alive. But when it happens for the second time, you do the same thing, but you always go down 3 times. And when you go down the third time, you go down calmly. It's like you accept what's going to happen. And that was Heather. She was in not exactly a trance, but she was in like a meditative state. It was calm. She felt peaceful. She started to walk around to get into the passenger side of the car. Now, I'm going to teach you a little song or a verse of a little song, and I'm going to ask you to join with me to sing it. Is that all right? Mm-hmm. It goes like this. Halavai, 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 halavai. 1, 2, 3. And hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. One more time. And hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Very good. You done this before? You sure? Give yourselves a round of applause. Come on. Now, it's from a song that goes. Are there any singers in the room? Any proper singers? Anybody here? Oh, thank goodness for that. It goes like this. Hallelujah, it means I hope, I wish, I pray. Hallelujah, it means I hope, I wish, I pray. And if I truly hope and wish and pray, these things I wish for will come true one day. 2, 3, together. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hallelujah, I wish I were an apple tree. Hallelujah, I wish I were an apple tree. And if I truly were an apple tree, then all my fruits I'd gladly give to thee. 1, 2, 3. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Ah, ah. He didn't make it to the chorus, did he? No sooner had he said the words, Hallelujah, I wish I were an apple tree. Flash of lightning, kaboom! Thunder roll, big cloud of smoke, and when the smoke cleared, Hamish had disappeared. Now that's poetry. Heather couldn't believe what she just seen. It's like she didn't dare believe what she just seen. She walked around that car 3 times, and then she went round to the driver's side and got behind the wheel. She pressed the starter button. The huge, powerful engine whispered into life. She put her seatbelt on, operated the controls, and set off, but not before stopping to pick an apple from a tree that had appeared at the side of the road, right next to the driver's door. She took a bite of that apple, and the sweet flesh and the sweet juice came to her as if they were a metaphor for the sweetness of the life that lay ahead of her. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Yeah. You can introduce yourself.
Thank you very much, Lady Prince. And we have here our wonderful, wonderful Lisa coming to share. You're going to have to introduce the story yourself.
Yes, I am. Because I changed my mind at the very last minute, as storytellers often do. I hope your ears will work. Because I'm going to tell you a tale. Last night on the terrace, we had a wonderful evening, as Baden's already said. And I told a story about water and a magical blacksmith and silver. Today, it's so hot out there for me. And I can feel the fire and the heat of the sun. So I'm going to tell you a story about the legend of Prometheus. Do you know who Prometheus is? Anybody heard of Prometheus?
Yeah.
Absolutely. He's a Greek, mortal, immortal. It's debatable whether he's God or man, as the stories go. Prometheus is very connected to fire, and I'll tell you why. Always reaching for the light, that bold Prometheus refused titanic fight, spared the bars of Tartarus. He spent night after night with his brother, Epimetheus, shaping man after might in name of his love. And so, by his design and his love for all humanity, he shaped mankind. Then no mere technicality, Athena was consigned to breathe life, mortality. So human being was designed, but what of personality? Endurance, strength, and nerve, an afterthought to give to the creatures of the earth, Epimetheus's gift. But it never does occur to give humankind a lift. And Prometheus observed this rift. Epimetheus's cup had nothing left for man. The animals all sucked from the lion to the lamb, but we were snubbed in favour of his plan. So Prometheus stood us up, and the resistance began. He felt his love for humans like fire in his brain, and under no delusion, he nurtured tender flame to bring it to his people, to rise against their pain, and a way to keep all of us warm in wind and rain. Then Zeus declared, sacrifice must be more robust. He took the best of the flesh and left the rest for us. So Prometheus did a trick, and the jape was later sussed, and with only bones to pick, Zeus took fire, left us dust. Prometheus flew higher than Icarus, and even though it stung with treacheries vociferous, he lit a torch from the sun. Imagine the aurora. Yes, Zeus was set to stun. He sent pretty Pandora, deceptive heart and lying tongue, and a funny little box that should never be undone. Oh, what a stunning beauty was said to live among Athena, Epimetheus, Prometheus, and us. Well, Pandora's curiosity was bound to do us in. Her apparent generosity was not to be boxed in, and she unleashed an atrocity of suffering and sin and all manner of monstrosity to get under our skin. Then it was debatable who left us with false hope so that we could be capable to cope. Was it he in chains, unbreakable, or that dope of a woman unobtainable who revealed the box's scope? Yes, he in chains, unbreakable, immortal, mortal male, Prometheus unmistakable, apparent epic fail, made his freedom unsustainable. His passion was curtailed. He was seized by gods unshakable, chained on Caucasian jail. Day and night, tormented by a giant eagle's need, Prometheus never lamented, liver heal and liver bleed. Man, I would go demented while the hungry beast did feed, but Prometheus never lamented its greed. Then Zeus gave two conditions, his freedom to be met. If he could proposition and somehow get an immortal volunteer to agree to be dead, and a mortal so sincere to destroy the daily threat. Then in walked tender Chiron and brave Heracles. The trickster may find asylum with gods such as these, and with a sweet surrender and sudden irony, wounded healer and defender died with notoriety. It was no small labour, but Heracles killed the bird and unchained poor Prometheus. At least that's what I heard. Till today, when I met him on the bus. Yeah, I know. It's an unlikely place for people like us. Still, I took the chance to ask him, why Prometheus? And he told me, I, Prometheus, wild adversary, trickster immortal, paradoxical trickery, I bring you fire. I offer power, bring you liberation to create or to devour. I, Titanic traitor, chained unto a stone, bird satiator, cursed to live and die alone. Yes, my fate was always marred, the gates to Olympus barred, permanently scarred, and on what charge? My unrepentant, holy, burning heart. He despised my cunning. He shunned my art. Why? Because I dared. Bound in chains, my Olympic fall from grace, each day an eagle's feast, my sacrifice to warm your face. Why? Because I cared. And 1,000 Vestal virgins do not do me honor, and 1,000,000 clay-built humans shun the sacred fire. Why? Well, don't just stare. You heard me. I gave up what I got. I suffered and I sacrificed for what? You. Yes, you, clay-built fauna in God's image, tormented by Pandora, holding false hope's privilege. I conspired. I inspired you to take care of your own, to stand against authority, to claim the wisdom gods have known. And now little metal boxes warm your hearts and heal your home. Orange quilling filaments, light switches, flame disowned. And some people choke in the smoke of their ill-fed bonfires, eyes burning acrid, blinded by fools and liars. Oh, and you bind me another rock to sit upon. You grasp me in eternal form beside your temples to Mammon. Yes, Rockefeller wraps me in a zodiacal chain to witness your torture again and again. All those Vestal virgins wear about their necks false chains, and my deluded clay creations know nothing of my pain. Do you? Or do I judge too quick? Will you awaken from the eternal torture of your soul? Will you grasp your spirit before your liver is sold? Do you dare to sack and burn your gods of corporation? Do you care to claim back and reinstate your sovereign status? I, Prometheus, a living mythology, in the darkness of history, I share with you my story. Thank you.
Oh, so very that story.
A bit hot now.
Thank you for taking us on this journey, Lisa. And over there, the one and only. Let's say it together. Oh.
Good. Assalamualaikum.
Salam alaikum.
Sorry for being late. Always a Marrakesh. All right. Okay, story. This is story. Some warm ups. Okay. Story.
Story.
Alright, we are ready for the story. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell one of my favorite stories. There's a lot of something background. When I learned that story, like it's sticking in my head, and every time I have the chance, I tell it to people. Yes. So, Ali, how are you? It's not the part of the story, but okay. So, once upon a time, when the world was still young, there lived a man, a king, and this king, one of the bravest king in this world, one of the strongest king, one of the famous, one of the richest, one of the, see what everyone say about this king, this man has everything that you can imagine. And this king, every morning, he wakes up in the morning and he do his duties and he went to his garden and he has see like a tree and he try to cut it. And he say, okay, he bring it like something and he goes, one, lost family garçon. 2, 3, ah! And he cut his finger off and he was shouting and shouting, my finger off, I cut my finger off. And he was running to the hospital. All the doctors around the globe came to him. And, Your Highness, Your Majesty, what happened to you? I got my finger off this morning. Look at them, 9 fingers right now. King, and everybody's happy because I don't have 10 fingers and everybody does. And the bandage on his finger. It was like a period, can't go out. Went, he just closed the door of his room. I was depressed because I'm the king, but nobody kids would laugh at me right now because one day back in the time, all the king and the important man, they have a such situation like this when they have like that sadness, they go to hand. They ride his horse in the mountains, the desert, and the like wood. And he was within there, like having like only man in that place. He was panting. The monks. There's a one gazelle like that. And he saw the gazelle, he was it gets closer, more closer. And because when we are hungry, we became blind, you don't see. Especially with me, when I become hungry, I can't think, I can't see. There is like boundaries. And he crossed from one land to another land. And guess what he found? Guess what happened? Big soldiers waiting for him and came for him. Hey, 9 fingers, man. What are you doing in our land? Tell us the truth. I'm hungry. I need to. I am the king, don't you? They said to him, no, this place, we don't have a king. We have a priest. And we are bringing you to that priest to see what happened. They fight him like this, and they bring him to the priest. The priest, everybody would respect him and sit in a place, in a chair. They bring that man, they bring the king, sit in a corner, and there is a big man came with a big instrument. And a lot of people come from nowhere, and everybody was happy and excited because that sound means someone is going to be killed. Someone is going to be sacrificed that day. And when there is such situation like this, it just gets excited. Back in the time, this is what you have as fun. You don't have television as we have now. And storytelling. When there is someone, they say, okay, that's what happened. I'm telling you the truth. I was there. And please don't hurt me. I'm the king, and my nation and my people needs me. No one understands his language. You just say what he said, complaining and ask them to let him go, and no one get interested in what he said because no one is the rules. And there is a big man came, long hair, long ginger beard, big swoop. He getting closer and closer and closer to that king. and he gave the sign, and he gets sign from the priest, and the priest said, priest gave the instructions, and the big man needs to do what he's asked for. One, said the priest. Two, let's stop. The priest said, stop and stand up. And he said, stop, stop, stop. You know, and everybody said, why? And the speaker said, why? You threw that sword in the ground and said, this is what we do. If you find a stranger in our place, we just take it off. And he said, no, not that man. You know why? It's not complete. It cannot be sacrificed. Because if he missed a finger, and then he said to himself, why? This king, no, I should kill him, but and he stand and he gave him his freedom and he won his place. I forget one thing in the first the story is that he had a vizier, and the vizier used to say one word, it's good. And it's good, explain his philosophy of life. Every time you ask him, whatever you can tell him, all the time we said, it's good. And that's why the king had such a situation like this. And when I'm really telling this story because I forget that in the first place. Forget now, excuse my memory. No, the storytellers like I have a fish memory. We forgot things really quickly. You know, it say to him, why you say it's good all the time? Put him in a prison for a while. When the king went to that, and all the things that I said, blah 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 blah.
You've caught up now.
Yes, okay. He went back to the prison, opened the door, and I see my friend there, put him in the prison, and all the time he said it's good. I say, what? I say, yes, it's good. But you are in the prison. I said, indeed, I'm in the prison, but I think it's good as well. I say, explain to me, please. And I say to him, here is the thing. Why I'm saying it's good all the time. You cut your finger off and you went to that place alone. Those people, you cut your head off because you miss a finger. Imagine if I was with you, if I were with you, I would be back, but I would never be escaped because we are a complete man. Those people will see us as sacrifice to their place, their lord, and they would just cut your head off. And they learned the story, and they learned the message, and they learned the moral. Thank you for a lot about that. Listen, and in real life, we should say it's good because we need that like philosophy in our life because during the day there's a lot of things happening and we complain about why this car is crashing the car and imagine what happened to you during the day. But when you say that it's good and you see it another way, like a positive way, you can find the good in it. This is the story of the king and his best friend, the vizier. And I think this is the bad way I tell that story for a while. I can see it in your eyes, but don't tell me that I will kill you this.
It's good.
Oh my
It's good humanity, isn't it?
Yes.
Thank you, Omar. It's good. I'll never forget that. Now, thank you, Omar. Here we have a guy. You'd never know that he's a storyteller unless you look at his chest.
Let's do I tell tales.
I tell tales.
In the Storytelling Cafe.
Here is Max. Little secret for you who don't know. He belongs to her.
My heart, for definite.
Oh,
Also, got my hands and
It's good.
the rest of my body. So, it's beautiful and hot here. The story I'm going to tell comes from a cold place. Far, far up in the north of Europe, beyond the top of Finland, there is a land called Lapland. And Lapland is where Santa Claus comes from. The North Pole is up there. It's a frozen wasteland, a brutal landscape of ice, snow, and mountains. It'd be like, why would anybody live there? What stories could you tell from a place like that? But there is a people that live there, the Sami people. Now, this story centers around a Lap man and a Lap woman. And they live in this desolate, snowy landscape by the great river Tana, which is frozen solid, maybe 7-8 months of the year. Now, one thing you have to know about Lapland is during the summer, the sun rises in the spring and stays in the sky and doesn't reach the horizon and comes back up again. And for 70 days, there is no night, which is fun during the summer and a bit weird. But during the winter time, the opposite happens. And the sun sets and then doesn't reach the horizon and goes back down again. And for 70 days, it's just night time. For 70 days. So, this is set in the night, the long winter nights. The Lap man and the Lap woman hunt along the river, eat in their beautiful hut, which they drive sticks into the snow, join them together into a beautiful round hut, and then cover it in reindeer skins. We know what a reindeer is, everybody? Reindeer, like a horse with huge antlers. So they cover in the reindeer skins, and they live inside, and there is a small hole in the top where the smoke comes out, and there's a small hole in the bottom where they climb from the snowy land into their warm, lovely home. They were so happy in their land. There was nowhere else in the world they thought was more beautiful than the snowy, icy plains by the River Tarn. They would sit outside and watch the stars twinkle all night long. And the night lasted for 70 days. So they really liked it. And there's something called the Northern Lights. And these are where the solar rays hit our atmosphere and swirl in beautiful colours. Greens and reds and pinks and yellows and blues just cascade in the sky. It is a beautiful landscape, even though it seems harsh. And they were so happy that they had a little boy. The little boy was beautiful with thick black hair, lovely black eyes, and a little snub nose. He was very handsome for a Laplander. And they doted over him. They doted over him and they loved him. And the father named him Sampo. Now, Sampo means fortune in Laplandish. And he said, our son will grow up to be a handsome young man and maybe even the king of Lapland himself. And the wife was like, yes, maybe it will. And then one day, during a brutal storm, 2 strangers sought shelter. And they came into their hut and they were very generous and very kind. And they doted on the little Sampo and rubbed his little fluffy head and said how lovely he was. And they gifted them a lump of frozen snow, which was sweet, and they called it sugar. And it was so sweet and so lovely. And the 2 visitors would look upon the child and they would say the only words that they knew in Finnish and Laplandish, which was little Laplander, and that's Lapalil. So they go off into the distance, and the mother and father, the Lap man and the Lap woman, And the woman starts to call their son Lapalil. The father's like, you can't call him Lapalil, his name's Sampo. Sampo's a good name, don't misuse it. The mother just ignores him and carries on calling him Lapalil, as mothers do. So, in the end, he gets two names, Sampo Lapalil, and a lovely little boy, Lapalil. That's the actual word, Sampo Lapalil. And he's a lovely little boy. And he grows up to be known Sampo Lapalil. And he thinks himself very special because he's the only person he's ever met with two names. Because there's so many people just have a single name. By the time he's 6 years old, he's a brave young man. And they grow up quick up there because it's cold and very dangerous to live out there. So you have to grow up quick. He grows up into a handsome, strong 6-year-old. He's got his own skis and he sails down the side of the hillsides by the river. And he's very brave and very quick, and his mother's very, very worried every time he goes out. And he's even got his own sled called a polka, which he hitches his own reindeer to. And he takes his polka and reindeer and he scoots out across the icy fields for hours and hours at a time in the night. And he loves the stars, and he loves the way the wind whips in his hair. And oh, the sight of his sled steaming across the ice with the snow whirling about was a sight that his father was so happy to see. And his mother was terribly worried every time. When he'd come back, going through the hole, get inside his lovely hut with a fire, wrap himself all warm up in his reindeer skin bed and drink some hot reindeer milk, and nestle in, and he'd listen to his mother, going to his father, I'm so worried about the little Lapalil. He'll go out all night. What happens if he gets preyed on by the wolves and eaten? It's like, don't worry, you silly woman. He needs to be out there. He needs to learn how to survive. So, but what happens if he meets Hisi and the golden antlered reindeer? Now, just to let you know, Hisi in Finnish means trolls, like a goblin, like a monster that lives in sacred places. Now, in this story, Hisi is the king of the mountain trolls, and he lives on the sacred mountain off in the distance, which you can't see in the wintertime. In the summer, it's huge, just like our lovely mountains out here. You can see them in the day, during the night they vanish. And this is where Hisi, the great mountain king, lived with his golden antlered reindeer. She says, if she meets Hisi, he'll grab him and he'll gobble him up. And he'll eat children like flies. It's so easy, so huge. She's terrified, poor old Sampo. And Sampo's in his bed going, golden antlered reindeers? That sounds amazing. I'd love to see a golden antlered reindeer. Not just see him. I'd like to hitch him up to my sled and I'd ride him so fast. I'd ride him to the capital city and I would become famous because I'm so special because I've got two names. Fantastic, he is. So the very next morning he's talking about this and his father says, sure, just be very careful. You can't just go riding off into the mountains. That will be very dangerous. And the father says, let me show you something. So he takes him out into the night and they go on their sled off into the distance until he finds a high hill. And he sits on the high hill and he points to the east. Just off in the east, just at the very edge of the horizon, there's a red-pink glow. Sampo's like, what's that, Father? Father says, that is the sun. And it is coming back. And when it comes back, the warmth will come, and not even Hisi himself can stop the summer. So don't be afraid of Hisi, but just wait. Because during the summer, we can go up into the mountains because Hisi is afraid of the sun. Now, you would have thought that would help, right? And the boy would be like, oh, okay, I'll wait. You don't know 7-year-olds, right? They're not going to listen to anybody. 6, 7. He grew up quickly. It was his birthday. So, the very next morning, well, the very next day, there's no day, very next breakfast, he's up early, before anybody else, dressed in his biggest spurs, he hitches up his reindeer on his polka, and off he goes. But I'm not going to go all the way. Just get close enough to maybe see the reindeer, maybe even see a troll. And he's going through the night, and the stars are beautiful, the wind is in his hair, and he's thoroughly loving it, and he's going up the foothills of the mountain, and he hits a rock and bumps off the back of his sled and falls into a deep snowdrift. Upside down in the snow with his legs sticking out. The reindeer doesn't even notice. He's having so much fun. Straight off. By the time Sampo Lappa has pulled himself out of the snow, he's alone. He's alone in the foothills of the mountains. He didn't even realise he'd come this close. He was 50 miles shore from the home, and nobody else lived anywhere near him. He sat there in the snow, not knowing what to do. He's quite a brave young lad. He pulled himself together and said, well, I'm surely going to die in the snow, so why don't I do this one last brave thing? I'm going to go up the mountain, and I'm going to find that golden antlered reindeer. Off he marches, up the hill, trudging through the snow, climbing over rocks. And just as he's thinking, I may not make it, there's a noise. Out in front of him pads a great big wolf. Snarling teeth, big ears. He looks at Sampo and says, you look tasty. And all animals on the sacred mountain can talk. So that's all. He's like, oh no, I might get eaten. What shall I do? And he says, you can't eat me. I'm incredibly special. I'm Sampo Lappa. The wolf's like, well, I've never heard of a Sammy People or Lappa with two names. He must be special. What are you doing on the mountain, you special young boy? He's like, I am taking a message to Hisi, the mountain troll king. It's like, I better not eat you then. In fact, why don't you hop on my back? I'm going to see the mountain king himself, because it is the sun feast, because the sun's coming back, and when the sun comes back, the mountain troll king gathers all of the trolls from the mountain and all of the animals, and they watch for the coming sun. During this time, the wolf explains, there is only one thing that we're not allowed to do, and that's attack each other. We're not allowed to harm each other for an hour before the sun rises and for an hour after the sun rises. There is a truce. And he's like, oh, cool. I think I'll be all right. So off they go up the hill. Before long, they come to a huge clearing on top of the mountain. The only thing you can see is one huge peak in the middle of this clearing, a huge mountain peak. But around that mountain peak, trolls, giant trolls, huge rocks there with big long noses and big teeth. There are thousands of these trolls, big ones, and there are hundreds of smaller hill trolls, which are more greener and slightly rounder with funny looking ears. And then there are tiny trolls, like pebbles on a beach, all over the place, all surrounding this huge mountain peak. And then behind them, all the animals of the mountains. The bears, the reindeers, the wolves, the snow leopards, and the snow rabbits. They're all there. And right in the middle of them all, but with the reindeers, an enormous reindeer. It's golden antlers. Finally seen this, but he's also pretty sure he's not going to get away with anything because he's only got tiny legs. It will take him more than an hour to get out. So he hides behind a rock, slips off the wolf's back, hides behind a rock, and waits to see what happens. Just as the sky, before the sky starts to lighten, the king, there's a noise, grinding, crunching, thunderous noise, and Sampo Lappa peeks out from behind the rock, and the mountain peak in the middle of the clearing starts to move. And it's not a mountain peak, it's the Troll King, and he's huge. He's sitting on this massive rock throne. His head is like the biggest boulder you've ever seen. His chest is like a cliff all the way down. His arms are like the biggest pine trees, and his hands are like a log pile full of logs. And his beard is this massive icicles, just massive icicles going down his chest, and from his head to his back, a robe of snow. Stars glitter around his head. Sampo Lapalil is just amazed. His eyes are like the moon looking over a forest. He's just stunned by this amazing sight. The Mountain King raises one arm, and then the northern lights explode above his head. And it shines, and this is the Mountain King's magic. He's creating the northern lights. He stands up, he stomps his feet on the mountains rock. Sampo Lapalil is quite terrified. And then the Mountain King says, "Ah, this is the way it should be. Nighttime all the time, and then we trolls would rule the world, and everybody would bow down to our strength and power." All the trolls hear this, and they're all like, "Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we're going to take over." And then some of them go, "Yeah, because the sun's not coming back." "No, the sun's not coming back. Not this time. No, it's going to be night time the whole time. Yeah." And that's kind of ripped throughout the whole of the troll gathering. The animals are all like, "What? The sun's not coming back. Oh gosh, that's terrible. We need the sun." Even the wolves are like, "Not sure about the sun not coming back. That's terrible." The bears are like, "No, I like sleeping, but the sun is the time I like to get out." And then the Mountain King's like, "That's it. I decree the sun is dead. It's spent. It's never coming back." At this point, Sampo Lapalil has had enough. And we know he's quite a brave, courageous, and slightly stupid young man. And he stands up on his rock and he points at the Mountain King and he shouts in his loudest voice, "You liar! You liar! It's not dead. My father took me out onto the hillside and we watched the reddening sun coming. Summer's coming and there's nothing you can do about it," said Sampo Lapalil. The Mountain Troll King was furious. He raised both of his huge arms, his massive log-like hands, and he and all of the trolls and all of the animals were like, "He's going to hit the boy. He's going to break the truce. Everything's over." And the animals started licking it, and the trolls started, "Oh, we're going to eat all the animals, yeah!" And it was an absolute nightmare. But just as he thought he was about to get crushed, the very first ray of the sun peeked over the horizon and hit him in the eye, hit the Mountain King in the face. He's like, "Ah!" And he missed Sampo Lapalil. The golden reindeer who had heard, the golden antelope reindeer who had heard Sampo Lapalil called him a liar and stopped all this silliness, decided it was time to act. And he raced across and he scooped up Sampo Lapalil with his horns and popped him on the back of it. "Let's go," he said. And they raced off across the mountain tops. The sun was still rising. And then Sampo's on the back of the reindeer, going, "Oh, we gotta go." And he's like, "What's that horrible snapping, crashing sound behind us?" And the golden antelope reindeer says, "That is 100,000 bears chasing after us." It's like, "Oh no." He's like, "Oh, quick, you must run faster." And he says, "Don't worry, Sampo. There's not a single animal on this mountainside that can catch me." And he leapt over a rock and down the side of the hill, leaving the bears running around. He's like, "Oh no, what is that other sound? There's cracking and snapping and there's crashing." "That is the thousands of trolls coming, and they're going to smish us into bread. Put us on bread and eat us." And then he's like, "Oh no, why do you have to save me?" And the golden antelope reindeer said, don't worry. I'm so fleet of hoof, none of these trolls can catch me, and down the side of the mountain he have sped. Out across the icy plains, they rushed towards the river Tana. Smash, crash, huge thunderous noise behind him, and Sambo Lapalil says, "What is that terrifying noise?" And the golden antled reindeer says, "Oh, that unfortunately is Hisi, and I don't think I can outrun it. I think we're going to die." And Sambo Lapalil comes up, holds himself up to the reindeer's ear and says, "Reindeer, reindeer, if you can save us, I promise you, I will find you a silver crib and fill it full of golden oats, and you will eat those golden oats and you will be the happiest reindeer alive." And I've got to say, the golden antled reindeer was, he's like, "Yeah, okay, I can do this." And put on an extra spurt of speed and pulled out in front of the horrible Hissy, leapt over the river onto the other side of the bank. Now, Sampo Lapalili picked up courage and looked behind him. And he was glad he did, and he wasn't glad he did, because the sight was terrifying. Here was Hisi, up to his waist in slushy, icy water. His beard had gone, melted by the snow, and it was running down his chest like a babbling brook. The snow hood and cloak had melted and were running down like waterfalls into the river, making the snow and ice on the river turn to slushy mushiness. And every step he took, he sank deeper. And as the sun rose higher, the ice melted more, and he sank deeper and deeper until Sampo Lapalil saw just a rocky hill disappearing under the water. And then nothing, and the river froze solid. That was the last they ever saw of Hisi. Not saying he's dead, he's a mountain king troll, but they never saw him again. And the reindeer and Sampo Lapalil raced across towards the hut where the Lap woman and the Lap man were cheering wildly because they'd seen this happen. They were like, "Yes, it's our son back. We love him so much, and he's got a golden antlered reindeer. That's incredible." And they lived happily ever after. Now, he did get a silver crib, and he did fill it full of golden oats, and they did eat them. The reindeer did eat them and was very happy, but that is an entirely different story that I haven't yet found. So, that is the story of Sampo Lapalil and golden antlered.
Whoa.
So that was a story that we got from Norman Perrin from his fantastic library and Finnish tales. And we got it because we worked in Finland on a whole load of mythological stories with a group of kids.
I'm sure John Rowe would love this story because he's going to Lapland as
Yes.
Santa Claus.
I'm
Not
sure he
John
is.
Rowe, he's Santa Claus.
What a Santa Claus.
How are you all going? What a journey, Max. Thank you. Still a bit out of breath now. Now, we've been to so many different places. I think it's time we went way, way back. Do you know that the Igbo people in Nigeria have a proverb that a lot of other people say, no, it's actually ours. And that says, it takes a village to raise a child. Who here has heard this before?
Yeah.
Now, please look at each other, really, in the eye. And take a moment. No, not that look. Loving looks of friendship. And now imagine for a moment that all of us here, the sum of us, are that village. How different the world out there would be. The Persian poet Hafiz once said, "Your heart and my heart are very, very old friends." Now, what a different world it would be if it was just us making all the decisions. But this is how it goes. Sometimes there are people that are a little bit different. We'll find out why. Take your hearts and your imagination with me, and we're going to go on a journey way, 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 way back to the beginning. In the beginning, people walked this earth all alone. By and by, they would bump into each other and stay. They began to build shelters to stay, and so emerged the first village. And more people bumped into each other and built. So you see, the first villages emerged, but also roles, culture, and status. And something very strange happened. I don't know if you can figure out why. After a while, there were children. It happens. But the question on how these children should be raised caused a lot of conflict. Of course, everybody wanted what was best for their child, but how that was to be achieved, they just could not agree on. He wanted something entirely different for his child than you did. So there was a lot of fighting and arguing, and at some stage they decided it would be a good idea to take advice from the oldest persons of the village. Well, on the village circle, right in the middle, there lived an ancient woman. Her hut, the frame was made out of bones. The walls and roof were made out of hide, of skin. Every morning, the old woman would come out, her spine surprisingly straight for someone so very, very old. Her eyes were blind. She had a stick in her hands, and in the morning she would walk around the village circle, and her blind eyes would roam from door to door. Her stick was tapping a strange rhythm into the dirt. Tap, tap, tap. When the sun set, she went back into her hut and she closed the door. People were afraid of her. They called her the Bone Woman. But still, they said, "We need help about the children. Let's go and ask her." So the next morning, they gathered around, just like you, in front of Bone Woman's hut. She was already there. "Give me until the next full moon, and you shall have your answer. Now go away and stop your fighting and squabbling." The people were so glad to go back home and go about their business. But out of the corner of their eyes, they watched Bone Woman. How at every sunrise she would emerge from her hut and she would tap, tap, tap. Her head would go. Tap, tap. And every now and then, an arm would shoot out and grab. That worked. And then the sun set and she went back inside. People were asking each other, what was she doing? What was Bone Woman doing with this quick cracking of her head, that crazy tapping and that grabbing, you didn't like that, did you? That grabbing at nothing. What was Bone Woman doing? I know what she was doing. Come on, come closer, and I'll tell you. Bone Woman listened. Oh, yeah, she listened. She listened to words of praise. She listened to insults. She listened to harsh barks. She listened to lies. She listened to loving words. She strained her ears for the tiniest of whispers, squeaks, and moans. She took it all in. And every now and then, she would grab secrets and gossip. When the sun set, she went inside and closed her door. And in there, she began to pull everything she'd heard out of her memory and layer it carefully into a big cauldron. And she began to stir with the old stick. And she began to spice the mixture with the gossip and secrets. And she stirred and stirred. And as she stirred, she waited for people to be in their hammocks. When they were all sleeping, she would go out and gather dreams and wishes. And she would braid them into a long, long thread. Then she took the thread to her loom and she began to weave. She collared the thread with an eerie charm. Oh, wrong way. When she had a great big piece of material, colourful material, she cut it into lots of squares. And she went to her cauldron. The mixture was ready. And she began to add the mixture to the squares. And she began to tie bundles and pouches. She tied pouches of generosity. She tied pouches of envy, pouches of intelligence, pouches of kindness, pouches of envy and jealousy, pouches of deceit, pouches of lies, pouches of passion. When she was finished, she called for the clouds to cover the moon. Ooh. Then when it was really, really dark, she picked up those pouches. She came out of her hut and she walked to the village circle and carefully, ever so carefully, she put down the pouches into a pile. There was one pouch for each child in that village. When she had finished, she returned to her hut and closed her door. What a sight met the villagers the next morning. There in the middle of the village square was a pile of the most beautifully crafted pouches in all manner of colors. Bone Woman was already there, tapping her stick She took in each one of the villagers with her sightless eyes. These pouches contain the essence of the sum of you. They are spiced with all manner of traits. Children are innocent, but these pouches will give them what they need to grow up into the adults you desire them to be. There was silence. Bone Woman stepped back. Parents looked at each other and they began to rush forward to pick one of the pouches for their children. Not you, thundered Bone Woman. It is the children that will do the choosing. Gasp of hesitation, and then began the noise and the chaos. Children came from everywhere. Parents pushed them forward. Quick, quick, get the orange one. Get the orange one. No, the green one. Not that one. Not that. Child, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. There was a pulling, a scrambling, a climbing, a swapping, a snatching, fighting. It was loud. It was chaotic. It was terrible until suddenly there were only 2 pouches left on the ground and 2 children. One pouch, oh, it was red and gold. It was perfect. It was plump and full. The other one was thin and threadbare. One child was a little boy who, in his hurry, had fallen down and was lying in the dirt crying. The other was a small girl who the whole time just watched. The parents of the boy went and picked him up and says, quick, quick, run, run for the red one, run for the red one. The boy got up and he ran and fell again. And then he began to cry because the little girl was already at those last 2 pouches. The little girl heard him. She turned around. She looked. She went back. She gently wiped the tears of his cheek and helped him stand up. Believe it or not, she looked him in the eye for exactly 3 seconds. And then he ran off, grabbed the red one, and went back to his parents. Now Bone Woman herself picked up that last bundle, the threadbare one, and out of some holes, some of the mixture she had made fell to the ground and hissed as it disappeared. Bone Woman handed the pouch to the little girl. The little girl held the pouch to her heart. Then she held Bone Woman's hands in hers and she said, thank you. I don't need to tell you that that little girl grew up to be the wisest, kindest, most altruistic, generous, beautiful woman of the village. And do you know that she was no one else, none other than all of your great, 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 great ancestor grandmother. One love, one heart, let's get together and be your light. Thank you. Because Walid wants the picture with Omar, and Omar the genie has reappeared.
Oh, my.
Sit down, sit down, sit down. No, you sit down. This is the other residents of
Köpek. Levet jag minuti. Alimino Harris.
Oh, did you just say we were your faithful subjects?
No.
No. Can you say that? Beja!
Albeja.
Rasheen! Rest of the world, Hamasi! I hope you heard it.
Watching, on catch up.
Thank you, Waleed. Come here, Waleed.
Yep.
Come here. The magic carpet, as usually, was flown by your captain. Waleed.
I only have one question. Who are you again? You are.
Oh, Mike. Mike is here. Come here, Mike.
Hey.
The Godfather is here. Be careful.
Can you wave at the world? Wave at the world.
Well.
That's the real king.
No.
You. Oh, look at Rasheen.
Oh.
All right. Waleed, as Mama C would say, over.
See.
Out. See out.
Get well soon.